Okay, so, I had originally intended for this video to be mostly a joke, but the more I scanned through the game's dialogue, the more I realized just how serious of a problem it was. I mean, when we first see the Day of Lavos video at Eris Dome, it's Marl's inherent compassion that makes her suggest saving the future. A future, I might add, which is far from her and her friend's home time period, and wouldn't take place until long after their deaths. As I thought more about it, I finally figured out exactly why it was her suggestion in particular, the pampered princess of King Guardia. She hasn't met these people. Bear with me, okay? Most of the NPC townsfolk throughout the game are either 1, indifferent and caught up in their own selfish lives and pursuits, or 2, just flat out rude to Chrono and the party. The biggest offenders of this type of behavior are the ones who offer you a yes or no question. If you run into one of these self-centered jerks, just be prepared to be disappointed, no matter what you say. The first one that comes to mind is this guy, walking around the top floor of the Truce Inn like he owns the place. He asks you whether or not you remember the recent earthquake that happened. Now, obviously, his answer if you say yes is no big deal, and he responds like any typical NPC just chewing the fat with the main character. But if you say no, he straight up calls you an airhead. I mean, really? The second option is likely the one we would choose, too. Think about it. We just started playing. Assuming we went straight from Chrono's house to the inn just to explore, this guy might be one of the very first people we talk to. And all we know up to this point is that there's a bunch of birds, that Chrono has a tendency to oversleep, that he has a cat, and a best friend named Luca, and a mom who pays him a 200 GP allowance to blow on carny games. How then can we be expected to know of events that happened recently, as in before we even existed as the player, and then further be insulted because of our ignorance? What the hell? Then there's the people in the Elder's house. Some of them, like the Elder himself, are awesome and really help new players to understand game mechanics, and even give you a compliment or two. Maybe even some money. But talk to anyone who asks if you want to hear about something you might already know, and they just drop the conversation entirely, no longer wishing to waste their precious time on you. Now, I could talk about the Mayor of Poor, but that guy is meant to be an ass for a side quest later in the game. But these random townspeople are just mean for the hell of it. Next, we've got the lady who sells the candy at the fair. She asks if you know the latest gossip. This is a bait and switch from the guy earlier. If you talk to him first, you're probably like, well, no, I don't know the latest gossip. But I'm not telling her that just to get called stupid. So you pick yes and... frickin' really? Scram? Ooh. To the Middle Ages. After you get thrown into 600 AD, you might think, oh neat, this looks like where I just was, but it's a little different. Maybe I'll stop in the local tavern and get my bearings. The first guy you see is wearing armor like the GI jogger at the fair race, and looks like he probably has good information. You ask him where you are, and he immediately asks if you're stupid. Wow, nice. He then answers your question and gives you the option to clarify that you actually knew already. This goes beyond the earthquake guy and candy lady, as no matter what you say here, it doesn't feel good. Say no, and he'll spit a sarcastic line about needing more ignorant people around. Say yes, and he tells you to shut your pie hole. Wow! And then, to top it all off, Toma calls you rude for sitting in his seat. To be fair, Toma's one of the nicest dudes in the game to the party, so I can't be too hard on him. Not to mention, he obviously spends a lot of time in this bar, considering he has a favorite chair. And judging by the sort of other people he's likely had to deal with, I understand why he might think we're just like the normal rabble. Luckily, we buy him a beer, yes, beer, and he's cool with us from then on. Moving on to the self-centered maids in the castle. After Marl disappears, they just want to get the latest scoop from you to fuel their bizarre obsession with drama. Even the guard, who claims to not want any part of it, still hangs around with these ladies. It makes me think that his line about growing tired of the gossip around here probably isn't out of a sense of morality, but boredom. Okay, jumping ahead a bit, back to the present. Let's take a look at the witness girl from the trial. While, yes, I may have done some questionable things at the fair this playthrough, the enthusiasm with which she condemns Chrono is totally uncalled for. She literally seems to just be caught up in the pageantry of courtroom proceedings and how much the nerves are getting to her, all the while not knowing she's sending someone she barely knows straight for the guillotine without a second thought. In fact, there seems to only be one person in this entire courtroom on her side in this scenario. And no, I don't mean Pierre. He's just doing his job, and a crappy one at that. No, I mean this guy. This G. The only guy who, against all the evidence to the contrary, still felt that Chrono was innocent and stood his ground. Thanks, bud. I owe you one. To the future. The merchant guy in Trandome responds understandably when you say you have cash, genuinely wondering if what you're offering is actual money. But if you say no, he calls you all fools and says he has nothing for you. While that sucks to be told, I can kinda give the people of the future a little leeway, since they're all terribly hungry and struggling to survive. But I would think that given how few humans are left in the world, you might greet a new set of them with a bit more tact. Another guy in Aristome asks if you really crossed the ruins of Lab 16. If you say no and try to explain about the gate in Bangor Dome, he just says they can get information about it from their computer. If you say yes, you did come from the west, he just says he doesn't care. If you didn't care, why did you ask? A similar line is spoken after having witnessed the Day of Lavos video and risking your life for these people by bringing seeds up from the food storage. Doan asks what you discovered. Marl speaks for a moment, and then this guy says, "Who cares? Where's the food?" Not, "Hey, I'm glad you made it back okay, did you find anything to eat?" Just, "Shut up, feed me." Are you guys, like, brothers or something with this "who cares" crap? At least you get the satisfaction of pushing him out of your way when you leave. Back to the present. I won't go into detail about Medina Village, as they have pretty good reasons for hating humans, especially the imps who live in the house with the closet gate. It does have to be a little maddening for 3 people to just pop out of your cabinet and run out of your house every time they need to talk to the weird old guy outside of town. Speaking of Melchior, though he's not exactly a generic NPC, I can't help but mention how at the end of every sentence, he asks if you want to buy something. I can't fault him for it, as he needs to make a living, and he does sell some pretty nice stuff, but really, after an epic line like this weapon represents considerable power. Your actions may either save or destroy life. Wield your sword with full knowledge of the consequences. Hey, you want to buy some crap? Luca's mom is kinda self-centered too. I hate to be insensitive, but her legless ass sits in a chair all day while her husband and daughter do what they can to support her. She spits out a line talking about how Luca and Taban only care about their silly toys. To which, frickin' immediately, Taban walks in, gives her the money he made, and she changes her tune so fast she should have gotten whiplash. Real quick, let's talk about the girl at the inn in chorus. This is another one of those question-y types. She asks if you've heard about the ghost that wanders the northern ruins. If you say no, she regales you in the tale, and is quite pleasant. If you try to show how much you care about her town and its history by proudly proclaiming that you know all about the ghost, she tells you to beat it! I'll show her. I'll go back in time, repair the ruins, restore Cyrus's good name, and change history for the better of Chorus. Now let's see what she says. Ah yes, now she asks if we've heard the great tale of Cyrus Magus and Glenn. Of course we have! What do you have to say to that? Middle Ages, Round 2. At this point in the game, I take most issue with the guy at the snail stop in Poor, who calls Frog ugly. And Tata's dad, who acts like the world revolves around him just because everyone thinks his son is the legendary hero. Way to take advantage of your child's accomplishments, you selfish bastard. And later, when Tata, who actually has a conscience, admits to lying about how he obtained the hero medal, his father reacts by tearing into him. Good on Tata for fighting back, and pointing out that he wasn't the one running all over town bragging about it. I've got nothing bad to say about anybody in prehistory. They're all cool. Moving on. The Kingdom of Zeal. Whew, Talk about some overinflated egos. I get why a lot of them are that way, seeing as they've been told their whole lives that they're enlightened and special because they can use magic, but there are a couple of folks who interact with the party in ways that always urge me. Not surprisingly, these two hang out together. First, there's this lady, who senses your aura and realizes that you possess the gift of magic. Just as you think you may have found a kindred spirit in this elitist kingdom, she follows up by assuming your powers are primitive compared to hers, and calls you poor things. Hey, bite me, lady. I'd like to see your version of Luminaire and Flare. Go ahead. Go beat Lavos real quick. Nah, it's cool, I'll wait. Then there's this guy, who asks a philosophical question seemingly to no one, and then proceeds to say, Who cares? Who cares? Wait. Holy crap. I may have just found a hidden family tree that spans 14,300 years. This guy, and these guys, well, let's be reasonable. That's only if the guy in Kajar survived the fall of Zeal, and he'd have to be present in Last Village or the Commons for that. How can I survive in this world without magic? Yep, I think we found him. Looks like his pompous girlfriend made it too. How's it feel to be down here with the rest of the trash, huh? With our primitive magic? Aw, are you cold? You poor thing. Anyway, I'm just gonna take my flying time machine and go hang out with my caveman homies. Peace, lady. Jeez, makes you wonder why you're even trying to save the world. What's the point of keeping a population alive if they're just gonna give you trick questions, call you stupid, and tell you to scram? Screw it, man. Let Lavos blow up the future. It'll serve them right. Oh god, what's happened? Am I becoming just like them? All of these people throughout history that I've interacted with, all of the quests and battles I've fought across time to save them, has it affected me in such a manner that I've forsaken my own good nature and moral code? Will I ever be the same again? And what of the future? What of my future? Who cares?